Hi everyone, Stepan here. As many of you have requested, I have started a video series on dubious openings, and in my quest to cover chess opening theory, I'm going to be covering dubious openings as well. In the last video I've been through the Latvian Gambit. Today I'm going to go over the Elephant Gambit, which has a similar idea, but I would argue it's not as bad as the Latvian. It's again after the move knight to f3, black does something strange. The Latvian is f5. Today the elephant is pawn to d5. And again, it's an opening that's been giving me headaches because I play the Italian, so I expect knight c6 or perhaps the Russian, but I don't expect this. And I've lost quite a few games to it. It's not as bad as the Latvian, but it's still bad for black. And I'm going to show you a simple way to refute the opening with the white pieces. I should say that black has won quite some games with this, and I'm going to show you one game quickly, but white should win most games if he knows what he's doing. So let's see what this opening is about. So this is called the Elephant Gambit, also known as the Englund counterattack or the Queen's Pawn counter gambit, which is a very boring name. The idea is to undermine central control, basically same as with the move f5. You're trying to get rid of the e-pawn and in that way secure control over f5 and d5, making it easier to, well, maneuver your pieces through the center. And if white should take this, then he basically has no central control left for the moment. And it also means that if the e4 pawn is gone, the e5 pawn can move down the board, which can be extremely annoying, as we saw in the Latvian Gambit as well. So white has two options. White can play knight takes e5, and this is simply not as good. It has been played and should be better for white, but it's not as good as e takes d5, which is the main line. So I'm not going to be recommending this. After bishop d6, for example, and d4, and d takes e4 and knight c4, white of course is better, but black has decent chances in this position. So we are going to be focusing on the main move, and by far the strongest move, e takes d5, simply taking the pawn. Now, don't be afraid. There is nothing black can do to get a good position here if you know what you are doing. Again, I've lost games to this, same as to the Latvian Gambit, but here's a brief update on the Latvian Gambit. That night, or that evening, when I recorded the Latvian Gambit, Stipe and I played a blitz match. I won 7-3. We played 4 games in the Latvian Gambit. I was white. 3 of them I won, and 1 of them my flag fell when I was completely winning. So finally I have an antidote against the Latvian. Now I learned how to beat the Elephant Gambit. So don't worry. You're going to have everything you need to make sure you don't have to worry about this annoying opening again. So black has two options. Let me just say that the most, well, logical move for some people, grabbing the material back, is simply bad for black. The two moves we are going to be looking at are e4 and bishop d6. These are the best two moves in a bad position. If queen takes, then white simply gets too much activity. We know that in most queen's pawn openings, whenever black has to recapture on d5, and the knight is still on b1, you don't take with the queen, you either take with the pawn or with the knight, to make sure knight c3 doesn't come with tempo. So now knight c3 does come with tempo. The queen has to retreat. This has only been played once or twice, but I imagine the best retreat is queen e6. The engine likes it. And now we can continue bishop b5 check, developing with tempo. If c6, then black's pieces are bad, but let's say this is the most logical move. I think bishop d7 is the engine choice. And now bishop a4, preparing bishop b3, and if something annoying like queen g6, you can play bishop b3 anyway, and this pawn cannot be taken. If queen g2, then the rook g1 actually wins. After queen h3, you can take on f7, and there's a fork coming. But in any case, this line wasn't forced. The point is, after queen takes d5, knight c3, you can see that white is going to have a huge lead in development. It's 3-1, and it just doesn't work for black. So the two moves which are most logical after e takes d5 are bishop d6 and e4. Bishop d6 is the so-called true way to play the Elephant Gambit. I don't understand what that means. I've heard that term in some literature. So after bishop d6, here's a really nice refutation of this. You play d4, breaking the center straight away. Now black really couldn't afford to lose his e-pawn as well. If for example, let's give him a stupid move. If, for example, bishop to g4, then you can simply take, and after bishop takes, you can play something like queen e2 and just grab material here, and this just wouldn't work. So after d4, black's only move is pawn to e4, and now simple continuation, knight e5, and now if this knight is taken, we have 2 pawns on the 5th rank. It's over. So knight f6 has to be played, and now this part is the key moment. You play bishop b5 check. c6 is of course impossible because you have take 3 times, take the rook in the corner. He can play bishop d7 or knight bd7. Bishop b7 is better. Let's just say then that knight f to b7 is a dreadful move, under developing a piece. If bishop to d7, you have no issues. Same as with knight bd7, but no issues. So here's what we do. We take the bishop. Knight takes, oh, excuse me, the other knight takes, not under developing. And now we play c4, this very simple move, strengthening our center, preparing to castle, play knight c3, play rook e1, play queen e2, put pressure on e4, play bishop g5, and perfect position. The most sensible way for black to play, in my opinion, is a6, and now you give up your bishop, queen takes, and you castle. And this position is completely winning for white. There are absolutely no issues here. So let's go over that again. Bishop d6. We play d4. They play e4. We play knight e5. They play knight f6. We check on b5. c6 is impossible. So if bishop d7, we take it. Knight b takes, we play c4. And whatever happens, we have a strong pawn center. Now, if knight takes, then there are 2 options here. One game I'm going to show you now features a move that I wouldn't recommend, a move that's too risky. So let's see that. The move played in that game is bishop g5. It's very logical. It's not a bad move. It's one of the top 3 engine choices, but it's very risky. Why? Because you never really want to capture here. Let's see what happened. Black just castled. This is the game Farid Balabayev versus Jörg Blauert from 2006. And white took on d7. Now this pin wasn't there anymore, so you have to take. Bishop takes d7, and he took on f6. I don't like taking on f6, gf6, and now your knight has to move. After knight takes d7, queen takes d7. You can see that black can now use the open file. White castled straight into that. King h8, knight c3, and black, look at what black did. I'm just going to go through the moves quickly. In this position, white is already lost. King f2, f4, and the position just collapsed. King e2, ef3, check, rook f3, fg3, king d1, g2, and white resigned a few moves later. So this can be very tricky. So after knight b to d7, I've analyzed this game, and I've analyzed a few more games, and I came up with a very nice way to play which risks nothing. You play c4. We are going for the same setup that we play against bishop d7, and now you have no issues. Black is going to castle again. Nice. Now again, this pin is imaginary, so you have to do something about that. Bishop takes, knight takes bishop, bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, queen takes, and knight c3. And we have the same position. We reach the same position. We're going to castle, we're going to play rook e1. If necessary, but that's unlikely, we can play g3 to block this bishop. No issues. So against bishop d6, remember that you play this bishop b5 check, and eventually you play c4 to strengthen your d5 pawn. So that's simple. Now, probably the most active option, which is the main move, is e4. Now, again, I'm going to show you a simple antidote against this. Now you have to play queen e2, that's forced, and that's the best move. The main move for black is knight f6, and this is the trickiest move to face. If queen e7, which I've lost to quite a few times, I've been in this position, isn't tricky if you know what you're doing. This has only been played 4 times in serious games. You can play knight to d4, and now after knight f6, threatening your pawn, you don't defend it with c4, you play knight c3. and this is very hard for black to play. Previously I've played c4, I have to admit. Okay, knight bd7, and now here is a plan I found after analyzing this position for about an hour by myself without the engine, and then checking it with an engine. This move has never been played. I've never seen something similar. So I think this is new in recorded games, probably has been played in games that are not recorded. You play b3, and this is very strong. So now there are a couple of options. He can play knight b6, which is the best move, simply preparing to take here. But after bishop b2, knight b takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, you castle queenside. This is extremely strong. And there's basically nothing black can do here. He's so much behind in development. His king is still on e8. You have queen b5 check. It's hard to develop the bishop. Everything is hanging. I mean, it's just a dreadful position. So for example, if c5 is played, then you can play bishop b5, queen b5 check. And of course, it's bishop d7 loses this pawn here. Queen takes b7 and the knight is immune. If he doesn't play c5, let me actually see what the engine thinks is the best move. Okay, c5, let's say... okay, let's say g6, trying to play bishop g7. +4. +4 after rook e1. Okay, so that's a dreadful position. And after b3, if not knight b6, but queen e5, which puts pressure on the knight, then knight d to b5 again, threatening the c7 pawn. And once this bishop gets to b2, black's position is collapsing. For example, bishop b4, bishop b2. If a6 is played, then just d4 and white wins. Of course, if this is taken en passant, you can take on c7 because the queen is pinned. So this bishop is a perfect piece, and all of your pieces are active, but this bishop adds to the pressure. So against queen e7, queen e2, queen e7, just knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, and knight bd7, or bishop d7, doesn't matter. You play b3 anyway, and you prepare bishop to b2. So this is a nice refutation against queen e7, and there really shouldn't be any issues from here on. Now the main move is knight f6, and this I have to say is even simpler. You continue knight c3. Again, it's possible to play d3, but knight c3 is simply better. This pawn is still pinned because queen e7 hasn't been played. Now bishop e7 unpinning. Okay, and in this position you play knight takes e4. Okay, now this position is going to transpose. Black can either take on d5 straight away or castle. One game has been played by MVL from this position. He got crushed by Sergei Movsesian. It was the World Championship. It was the World Blitz Championship. I'm not going to be showing you that game. You can find it yourself. World Blitz Championship 2010. Movsesian, MVL. Movsesian crushed him. So we play knight takes d5 or castles with black. So knight takes d5, for example. It is going to transpose. Now, I'm going to show you the safest option again. An option after which black is simply busted. A pawn down for nothing. Here's a risky option first. c4. I wouldn't recommend that. Because after knight b4, problems on c2, you have to play d4. Now castles, you can chase the knight away, but rook e8 and your knight is hanging. For example, you have to play bishop f4 to castle quickly. If you don't, you just lose. But still, after bishop f5, it's hard. And black gets what he wants. We don't want to give gambit players what they want. That's the main thing we want to avoid. So we play d3. Okay, black castles, nothing better. And now we play queen d1. And this is wonderful. What this move may seem strange, but you're protecting c2, preparing bishop e2 and castles kingside, and you have a normal position. Black has no attack, and you're a pawn up. So nothing for black. Knight c6, bishop e2, rook e8, for example, castles. And now if black doesn't do something crazy, he's going to lose. But everything that's crazy loses anyway. I found one idea, f5, knight g3 and g5, but that's just not good. You can play c4 and counterattack on the queen side. For example, knight f4, you can take and play knight h5 and black is busted. If queen d6 with the idea of queen h6 and attacking the knight, you can simply move this knight away from f3 and defend. So for example, queen d6, d4 striking in the center, queen h6 and knight e5, and he can resign. So easy. Now let's go over that again. I'll try to simplify it once more. So when the Elephant Gambit is played, we accept the pawn. We take on d5. Black can play bishop d6 or e4. If he plays bishop d6, then we play d4. Black has to play e4, and we play knight e5. And after knight f6, we play this annoying check, bishop b5 check. He can cover with the bishop or with the knight. Regardless of what he does, we play our normal setup. We play c4, knight c3, castles kingside. We don't want to play bishop g5, because that would give him the option to play gf6 if we take, and we don't want to lose time. The second option is e4. Against this, we play queen to e2. Black can play queen e7, but that's not as good. We simply continue knight d4, and after knight f6, we play knight c3, and whatever black does, we play b3, and follow it up with bishop to b2. If the main move is played knight f6, then we simply continue knight c3. Black unpins, threatening to take our knight. We take on e4, black takes on d5, and after taking on d5, we simply play d3. And our idea is queen d1, black does something, let's say develops, bishop e2, black does something, and we castle, and we are a pawn up. Black has absolutely nothing. I hope you will never lose to the Elephant Gambit again, and I hope we are going to, well, see less and less of that opening. It's not a good opening. Well, good luck playing against it. Hope you win every game. Thank you very much. Let me know what you think, and stay tuned for more chess. Bye-bye.